He certainly sounded very sincere. I don't know if he wrote that himself, but it was a beautiful hesped.
Yeah. I know he's met with the royal family.
He often used to talk about it.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. It is 8:31, so we'll wait another minute. For those that I can see, you look good. For those that I can't see, I'm sure you look good too. I just can't see you. The way we usually do it is everyone stays muted, but you have the ability to unmute yourself. We just ask that if you do unmute yourself, if you can just continue to. Oh, I'm not showing my video. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay. Welcome again. Now that I can see everyone, you can see me. We just ask that if you unmute yourself, that you just go back and mute yourself after you speak, just to make sure that everyone else can hear. I'm not sure yet. I haven't finalized exactly the best way to do it with sources, in the sense that I usually share my screen, but I actually would find it easier not to have to share my screen. So if I could somehow figure out a way to if I drop the file into the chat to everyone, does everybody have the ability to download it as a PDF? I'm assuming most of you should be able to download it as a PDF. Is there anybody who can't download it a PDF if I drop it into the chat? So let me try that. This way I could see everybody. So let me just take that. Again, a little bit of experimenting here. Here's the Chaye. Here's this. Type a message to everyone. How do I do this? 1 second. If not, I'm just going to start. Does anybody know how to, is there a way to drop Mara Makomos somewhere? Does anybody know how to drop Mara Makomos into the message thing, or no? No? Okay. I guess I'll have to figure it out for next time. So for now, I'm going to share the source sheet here, and next time we'll figure out how to hopefully drop it to you in the thing. Again, welcome. So nice to see you. People have asked me about my shiurim. So today, the shiur on Monday night for the women was about 45 minutes, which will be about an average, about 45 minutes. The shiur for lunch and learn today, which was very nice, was about 30 minutes, 12:30 to 1. And this shiur is somewhere in between. I know it's already 8:30. It's getting late. People are already tired. That's why your cameras are off in case you fall asleep. It's going to be probably between 35, 40 minutes, depending, 30 to 45 minutes, but not so much later. If you have any suggestions, topics you'd like to discuss, etc. But we'll do Chassidus on the Parsha, which either means we'll bring in Chassidus interpretation, or tonight, something a little bit out of the box. Okay, I think it's better to send the PDF in advance. Yeah, you're assuming that I finished the PDF before 8:28. So we will try to send it. Maybe we'll get a list together of people who come, and we'll do whatever we can to get everything out to you. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we'll be able to learn a little bit together. If anybody, again, you can unmute yourself. If you can't see, please let me know. But I'm sharing my screen. Okay, here we go. And please feel free to make it interactive. I know tonight probably won't be so interactive. The first one, people are hesitant to talk, but please feel free to talk. And I want to thank Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, whose essay on Chaye I'll be using as the source for tonight. So the marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, which is described in this week's Parsha of Chaye, is a very interesting marriage in the sense that it's the first time that the Torah describes the love between a man and a woman. It's not the first marriage in the Torah, obviously. It's the first time that the Torah describes love between a man and a woman. As the pasuk tells us in source number 1, Vayiviyeha Yitzchak ha'oel Sarah imo. Yitzchak takes Rivka into his mother's tent. Vayikach es Rivka vatilo leisha vayehavea, and he loved her. Vayinachem Yitzchak acharei imo, and he was comforted after his mother. Now we know, again, it's not the first marriage. You had Avram and Sarah, you had plenty of marriages beforehand. The first marriage, Adam and Chava, after creating the first man and woman. So what does the Torah say? The Torah says in source number 2, Al kain ya'azov ish es aviv ve'es imo. You should leave your parents. V'davak bi'ishto v'hayu lebasar echad. You should cling to your wife, and you should become one flesh. Now, clinging to your wife and becoming one flesh seems to imply primarily a physical relationship, to become one flesh. However, in this week's parsha, when it says Vaye'ehavea, that he loved her, that's much more of an emotional bond. So you have the physical relationship that's part of every marriage, and you have the emotional bond. And in this case, it seems to be concentrating the pasuk on the emotional bond between Yitzchak and Rivka. And it's mentioned for the first time, this emotional bond, this love between Yitzchak and Rivka, not by Adam and Chava, not by Avraham and Sarah, but by Yitzchak and Rivka. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that Avraham and Sarah did not enjoy a loving relationship with each other. That in no way is what it means. I just realized that I didn't plug in my thing. Sorry, 1 second. Make sure I don't run out of battery. The pasuk in no way means that Avram and Sarah did not have a loving relationship. You have to remember, they were married for many, many years. They basically started Yiddishkeit together. They listened to Hashem. They left their families. They really changed the world. Sarah risked her life twice for Abraham when she said that she was his sister and not his wife. Abraham refused to marry Hagar and to be with Hagar until the time that Sarah basically insisted that he did so. And only then did Abraham listen to Sarah and take Hagar as a wife. Abraham listened to Sarah to expel Hagar and Yishmael, even though he personally did not want to do so. And in this week's Parsha, after Sarah dies, you could see and you could sense from the Psukim the deep love that Avram has for Sarah, and all of the steps and all of the negotiations and all the sensitivities that he has to give Sarah her final honor in burying her in a cave where he would eventually be buried as well. So we can't suggest that this is the first time that there's an emotional connection between two people. I don't like in general speaking negatively about the Avos, but especially here, there's no reason to assume otherwise. And yet, we have to be sensitive, as I always say, we have to be sensitive to the words of the Torah, to the words of Nevi'im, to the words of Ksuvim. And we have to be sensitive to the fact that the first usage of the term Vaye'ehaveh, love between spouses, is Yitzchak and Rivka. And the question we want to really deal with tonight is what is unique about their marriage, and why is this sort of description of love seldomly repeated in the Torah? What does this have to do with them? And specifically, why is love the description of Yitzchak and Rivka? The Torah tells us, Vayehav Yaakov es Rachel in source number 3. The Torah does tell us that Yaakov loved Rachel, but when was that? When did Yaakov love Rachel? Yaakov loved Rachel before they were married, right? What does it say in the pasuk? Vayomer avdecha sheva shanim berachel bitcha ketana. He says to Lavan, I will work for your youngest daughter Rachel for 7 years. So by Yaakov and Rachel, there is the word love, but it's love before marriage. By Yitzchak and Rivka, it's love, and it's love that comes after marriage. Vayikach es Rivka vayehaveha, as opposed to vayehav Yaakov es Rachel, and then he marries her. And that's what we really want to understand, the difference, and specifically, what is the love that we're talking about here with Yaakov and Rachel. Okay, with Yitzchak and Rivka, I'm sorry. That's question number 1. And again, please feel free to make me feel like I'm not talking to myself. Question number 2. Much harder to give shiurim on Zoom than it is in person. Question number 2. We know that all marriages have moments of tension. It's never smooth sailing every single day. And that's part of the growth process. It's to struggle and then to grow together. But by the other avos and imos, in the Torah itself, it seems to describe moments of tension. Yes, of course, they were lofty people, they were holy people, and the moments of tension are not degrading to them in any way. They're lessons for us. But at the end of the day, the Torah definitely described moments of tension with the other avos and imos. By Sarah, what does Sarah say in source number 4? We know that Sarah says after the whole thing with Hagar, Vatomer Sarai el Avram, Chamasi alecha, which can mean I'm angry at you. Anochi nasati shivchasi b'chekech, I gave you Hagar. Then Vatera Kirasa, she becomes pregnant. Va'egel beinah, and now I become nothing in her eyes. Yishpot Hashem beini uvenecha. You see some type of tension, some type of anger from Sarah to Avraham. What happens with Rachel when Rachel can't have any children? What happens with Rachel? So Vayichar af Yaakov b'Rachel. Rachel tries to complain and complains to Yaakov, maybe it's his fault. And what happens? Yaakov gets upset at Rachel in source number 5. Vayomer hatachas Elokim anochi. Who do you think I am? You think I'm God? You think I have the ability to control whether you have children or not? Asher mana mimech pri baten. You think I'm the one who can control that you're going to have children or not going to have children? So you see that when it comes to Avraham and Sarah, when it comes to Yaakov and Rachel, there's some type of tension. Again, God forbid, these are the avos. So we're not dealing with tension, yelling, this, that, whatever it was, but there was some type of tension that there was between them. And I'm sure that there was tension between Yitzchak and Rivka at some point, but at the end of the day, it's not really described in the Torah. Of course, we know that Yitzchak and Rivka disagreed. Where's the most clear case, somebody that Yitzchak and Rivka disagreed? Can't be talking to myself. Where did Yitzchak and Rivka disagree?
With Yaakov and Esav.
Thank you. You see, it's a good thing we have a good president who steps up for the rabbi whenever he needs them. Okay, when I do my thing tomorrow, I'm going to thank the president of the shul. So what does he do? We know that with Yaakov and Esav, it's very clear that Rivka loved Yaakov and Yitzchak loved Esav, whether he was right or wrong, whatever it was. And Yitzchak wants to give a bracha to Esav, and Rivka, obviously we know, tells Yaakov to dress up like his brother and to get the blessings for himself. And that could have very easily resulted in a quarrel. Yes, okay, they send him away, but after he's gone, after Yaakov is gone, at the end of the day, Rivka and Yitzchak could have very easily butted heads and started to argue. And we see nowhere in the Torah that it tells us that there was strife between them. So again, of course, there was some type of strife, like every good marriage, but it's just interesting that by Avram and Sarah, it mentions it. By Yaakov and Rachel and Leah, it mentions it. But by Yitzchak and Rivka, it never mentions the strife. So that's what's very, very interesting. So what's unique about their marriage? Why does it say the word love, this emotional bond? And again, connected is that the fact that there's no mention really of strife between the two of them. So we're going to sort of pivot and move in a little bit of a direction and then bring everything back together. So we know that there's a famous Gemara. And again, I just sometimes unshare the screen so I could see people, make sure you're all still awake, whoever I can see. And everybody else over here, 1 second. Okay. When you learn Torah, it's geschmack. The more you learn, the more you realize that all of life is contained in here. So there's a famous Gemara that many of us have heard before, but I want to review it because it's very pertinent to our discussion. The Gemara in Brachos tells us, on Chav Vav Amud Beis, Idmar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina Amar, Tfilos Avos Tiknum. There's a machlokes between Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, whether the tefillah that we daven is Keneged Avos or Keneged the Korbanos in the Beis HaMikdash. Obviously, there's a connection of the two of them. The Avos are the ones who established it, and we do it at the times that the Korbanos were brought. But we're going to go within, since we're discussing the Avos, the patriarchs, we're going to go within the discussion that the reason we daven is at least in some way connected to the fact that the Avos established the tefillahs. So Tani Kavasi Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina over here. Tani Kavasi Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Tani Kavasi Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina. Avram tikein tefillah shacharis. So Avram established shacharis. Shneimar v'yashkem Avraham baboker. Elam hakom asher macham. Everything in the Torah you can find in the text. And it says that Avram got up in the morning to the place that he stood. And we know ve'ein amida ela tefillah. That's why we call it the amida. We call tefillah, we call Shmon Esrei, we call it the amida, the standing. Shneimar vayamod Pinchas vayipalel. You see that Pinchas davened, and it says vayamod, he stood up when he davened. That shows that the word amida, amad, means that Avraham davened. And when did he daven? Ve'ashkem Avraham baboker. Yitzchak tikein tfilas mincha. Yitzchak established mincha. Shneimar vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadel lifnot arev. Right before it got dark. What does it mean that he was lasuach? Ve'ein tzicha ela tefillah. The word tzicha we know from elsewhere means he went to daven. Shneimar tefillah la'ani kiyatov v'lifnei Hashem yishpoch sicho. So you see that he was davening to Hashem. He was pouring out his sicha, his speech. In this case, it means davening. Yaakov tikein tfilas arvis. We know that Yaakov was Misak and he established Arvish. He went to lay down at night in the place when he had the dream. We know that the word Vayifga means tefillah. Don't daven for these people. Don't daven to me. You see the word Pigia means tefillah. So you see that there's a fascinating tradition about the three prayers in Yiddishkeit. Avram established and instituted Shacharis. Yitzchak instituted Mincha, and Yaakov instituted Mariv. What's the connection, though? And this is going to be fascinating because this is going to bring us all the way around full circle to where we started with the marriage. What is the connection between the specific forefathers and the prayer that they established? I mean, we take it for granted that Avram was Misakein Shachris. We take it for granted that Yitzchak was Misakein Mincha. We take it for granted that Yaakov was Misakein Arvis, Mariv. But nothing in life is taken for granted, and nothing in the Torah should be taken for granted. So why specifically was it Avraham? Why wasn't it Yitzchak who was Misakein Shachris? It didn't have to be in order. If anything, we know the day starts at night. So maybe Avram should have been Misakein Mariv, and then Yitzchak should have been Misakein Shachris, and Yaakov should have been Misakein Mincha. Why exactly was it in this order?
Question. What was the tefillas, and were they all the same?
So that's a good question. Exactly what did they say? It's not clear. It wasn't the tefillah that we have, the Anshe Knesset Agdola put together when we have a specific text, but they all davened in their own language. And we know that the real way to daven today is also to daven in your own language. But back then, again, they didn't specifically daven, they definitely didn't daven the tefillah that we say today, but they had some sort of davening. But the idea that one should daven in the morning, and the idea that one should daven at night, and the idea that one should daven in the afternoon, that was definitely from the Avos. So we have to explain, obviously we know the Muslims have 5 daily tefillahs, which is our Yom Kippur model. But again, our daily basis and our daily tefillahs are only 3. So how do we understand this? So let's start with this and then we'll get back to the marriage conversation. What is morning? When we talk about Avram davening in the morning, Avram being Misakein Shachris, what exactly is morning? So morning, we know, brings with it a fresh start. There's excitement. There's energy, hopefully. Hopefully you're not like me, you go to sleep at 1:30 in the morning and wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. But hopefully you're getting a decent amount of sleep, which we know is very important. And when you wake up, you feel refreshed. You feel energized. When you wake up in the morning, you have a sense, as he says, until you check your phone, you have a sense that there are new possibilities, that we can accomplish things. I always say, don't bring your phone into the room when you go to sleep, and don't check your phone first thing in the morning when you wake up. You'll have a much more geschmack sleep and a much better davening. As the light comes on the horizon, there is a new dawn, there's new imagination, there's new things to conquer, there's new glimmers of hope. The Beis Yosef himself actually says this, and he alludes to this. The Beis Yosef in source number 7 says in Orach Chaim, we know the Beis Yosef is the Shulchan Aruch. He first wrote a whole parish on the Torah, the son of the Rosh, and then he decided it was too long and he had nothing else to do, so he wrote the entire Shulchan Aruch. Halavai, we should be able to do a quarter of what he did, or a millionth of what he did in his lifetime, but he wrote first a parish on the Torah, and then he wrote a whole other Beis Yosef. He wrote the Shulchan Aruch because he felt that the Beis Yosef was a little bit too complicated for us. So, Ma'ishna Tfilas HaShachar Mitfilas HaMincha VaArvis. What makes it different in source number 7? Yesh Lomar Lafisha B'Shachar Anu Nasim Kiberia Chadasha. We become new people. Modani Lefanecha Melachai V'Kayam Shechazarta Bi Nishmasi B'Chemla Rab Emunasecha. That's based on the pasuk in Eicha. Chadashim Lebekarim. You're new in the morning. Rab Emunasecha. And you have a renewed sense of emunah. And again, when you wake up, your sense, hopefully, you have a sense of happiness, a sense of promise. You're sort of pressing the restart button. You know, I once heard, why did Hashem make it that we have to sleep so long? Why do we have to sleep 6 hours a night, 7 hours a night? We're only here for 120 years. Why did he make it that so many hours? Now, I'm not exactly sure that this answers the question, why 6 hours or 7 hours or however many hours? But the point is that you go to sleep because if you never had to go to sleep, if you never got tired, then life would just be one long thing. It would be very hard to restart, very hard to do tshuva. That's part of the reason for Rosh Hashanah. You get to a point, and you can do this any day of the year, but for us, Rosh Hashanah, you get to a point, you analyze your entire life, and you say, okay, time to press the restart button. And it's very refreshing to know that as a Jew, you can press the restart button at any time. That's what tshuva is all about. But that is the story of the morning. The morning is about the restart button. That's why we have to sleep, according to some, because when we wake up, we had a bad day yesterday, we can wake up and we can start again. This is the story of Avraham. Story of Avraham is the morning, the beginning of Judaism, the excitement, a new era to the world, a new reality, a new vision, a new message. The message that the world is not just a world that's going and there's nothing happening. The world is a place which has reality, and not only reality, the world has meaning to it. We're not just pieces of dust. We're not just individuals who are here today and gone tomorrow. There's divinity. There's a God, and we matter. They're not competing gods, but we're all part of a single narrative. We're all united with a loving creator. And Avraham taught us that there is a purpose in history and a meaning in life. And Avraham did this with the freshness, with the excitement, with the energy, with all of the things that we have when we have a new day. That's why Avram symbolizes Shacharis. That's why Avram was Misakin Shacharis, because what he did in his life, the excitement and the energy and the freshness of having something new in the world, a new religion, a new understanding of what the world is all about, that's what Avram Avinu symbolizes. And it's much deeper than just he was Mitakin Shacharis. He was Misakin a whole new outlook on the world, energy, excitement, and freshness. And that's why it says many times, as in source number 8, Vayashkem Avraham Baboker. He woke up early in the morning. Elamakom asher amat sham es panei Hashem. Then again, when he has to bring his son to Har Moriah, what does it say? That Avram woke up early in the morning. That's where we learn in the Gemara. Zrizin magdim lemitzvos. You're an early riser. And again, the Torah is not telling us that he got up early because it wants to tell us that he had a cup of coffee. Anytime it tells us something, it tells us something for a reason. Because Avram is the one who instituted Shacharis. He's tapping into this new spiritual energy of daybreak, the new spiritual energy of the world. He was the one who brought Hashem into this world, and he's the one who emanated his presence. The presence of Hashem is clear as day. So that is Avraham Avinu. He's the one who symbolizes the Shacharis, the freshness, the excitement, and the energy. Let's skip away to Yaakov, because we're talking about Yitzchak. That's our main character today. So let's skip ahead to Yaakov. What's Yaakov? Anybody want to guess? Well, it's a pretty easy guess, because we know that Yaakov is night. Why is Yaakov night? Anybody want to guess why Yaakov is night?
Yeah.
Erwin, you're not you're always here for me. Yeah.
It would seem to me that that Yaakov is night because he represents Amunah, and that's the time. It's during daytime. It's easy to see what's going on during the day. At night, when you're rather dubious of what's going on because it's hard to see and to believe, is more of Amunah.
Excellent. So Erwin is saying, based on the pasuk that you may have heard before, and again, please continue to mute and then unmute yourself, or unmute and then mute yourself. But the pasuk that we always say, Lahagid baboker chasdecha ve'emunascha baleilos, to have emunah even at night. Yaakov embodies the night of Yiddishkeit. Just to read the words of Rabbi Jacobson, the kingdom of night is full of mystique, solitude, darkness, drama, and romance. Yaakov's life is rattled with darkness, uncertainty, loneliness, struggle, and trauma, fraught with drama and mystery. As Yeshaya Hanavi says, I wanted to share it back with you. As Yeshaya says, Lama Tomar Yaakov, why do you say Yaakov Utidaber Yisrael, his two names? Nistara Darki Me Hashem, my way is hidden from Hashem. Ume Elohai Mishpati Yavor, my cause is ignored by Hashem. We know that there's no personality in all of the Torah that's so connected to night as Yaakov Avinu was, as Erwin says. It was in the middle of the night. Vayivaser Yaakov Levado in source number 10. He was alone. Vayiyavik Ishimo Adalos Hashachar. He fought with the angel. It wasn't just a one time. He fought with the angel until it was gone. It's not a coincidence that he fought with the angel specifically at night. What does Yaakov Avinu tell Lavan Harasha? What does he tell Lavan, his father-in-law? In Bereshis Lamed Aleph, Zeh Esrim Shana Anochi Imach. I'm with you for the 20 years. 777. V'zecha lo shikelu. Rechelecha v'zecha lo shikelu. Ve'eleit soncha lo achalti. I didn't eat anything. Treifa lo hevesi elecha. I didn't bring a treifa. Anochi achatena miyadi tivakshena gnuvdi yom ugnuvdi layla. I didn't steal anything from you. Hayisi bayom achalani chore v'kerach layla. I was boiling hot with the heat during the day, and I was freezing at night. Batidat shnasi meinai. I didn't have any sleep. Yaakov, it says in the Torah, Vayifgav Amakom in source number 12. He met the place. Vayolen Sham Kiva Shemesh Vayikach Me'avnei Amakom. It was nighttime. Vayasam Ereshosav. He puts them under his head, the rocks. Vayishkav Bamakom Hahu. And that's where he has the dream of the ladder going on the ground and reaching up to the heaven. And Yaakov, which symbolizes night and a lot of uncertainty in his life. Yaakov taught the Jewish people. Yaakov taught through his struggles with Lavan, through his struggles with Rachel and Leah, through his struggles as he was running and fighting with the angel, through his struggles when he was dreaming and he was there by himself. Yaakov taught us how we're able to encounter Hashem during the turbulence, during nighttime. And when he woke up, what did he say? Achein yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh, like Erwin was saying. There's Hashem even at night. Lahagid baboker chazdecha is Avraham ve'munascha baleilos. Hashem is here, even though I didn't realize it. Yaakov can feel the presence of Hashem even when there's darkness, even when there's adversity, even when he can't figure out exactly why he needs to work for 20 years for his wife. He can't figure out why he keeps getting tricked. He can't figure out why he has to run away from his brother Esau. Yaakov's life is not an easy life, and he creates the Tefillah Mariv, the evening prayer, to show the connection to Hashem during the mystery and during the drama of nightfall. So it's very, very fascinating how it's specifically Avraham and Shacharis and freshness and excitement and newness, because he's the one who introduced us to Yiddishkeit, and specifically Mariv by Yaakov, because he had a lot of darkness in his life, and yet he was able to connect to Hashem even during that time.
That's one of the reasons we say after Krishma by Mariv, Emes Ramuna. Right?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Erwin, thank you.
And there's another contrast. By Rosh Hashanah, when we introduce Rosh Hashanah by Mariv, it says Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'kesel liyoim chakenu. So that's one thing, and then the next is Ki choik liYisrael hu mishpat lekei Yaakov.
Interesting.
And that's the other part.
Interesting. Okay. Erwin, thank you. Erwin will be giving the shir next Thursday night. Okay. Finally, let's go to Yitzchak. So what's with Yitzchak? And anybody else can talk as well. I don't want Erwin to lose his voice tonight. He's got to work over Shabbos. So what's with Yitzchak? So Yitzchak, we know, is not the morning and not the night. Yitzchak is the afternoon. Well, what's in the afternoon? I can tell you what's with me in the afternoon, a day like today, where I had my shir this afternoon and I have a shir tonight. And I woke up early this morning. I went to sleep late last night. In the afternoon, I'm exhausted. And I just want to take a nap. And I just want to fall asleep. So smack in the middle of a long day, you don't have the freshness of the morning. You don't have the night, the mystery of the evening. How would we say the one word that we would characterize our afternoons? Now, again, I know that in our world, we're always busy. But you can argue that afternoons are a little bit monotonous, right? You've been in the office all day. You're tired. Afternoon is going to bring its own stress. It's going to be monotonous until the children get home from school. Baruch Hashem, they're still going to school. The house might be in a mess. It's been a long day. Where do we get energy in the afternoon? How do we get energy when things are just, again, we don't have the freshness of the morning and we don't have the darkness of night. Where do we get that energy? So that seems to be the story of Yitzchak. If you think about it, it's fascinating. Yitzchak's life is not as exciting. You know, when I was younger, I always wanted excitement. Now that I'm a little bit older and I have a family, all I want is just calmness. Like when you see somebody, you say like, what's going on? And they say nothing, people get like, oh, that sounds so boring. When somebody says nothing is going on, I'm so jealous. I just want a time where there's nothing going on. And it's hard to find time today where nothing's going on. We have trouble. One of the I don't say flaws, but one of the challenges of our generation is that people don't know how to be with themselves when nothing is going on. People sit there. If you have 5 minutes without a phone and you have nothing happening, you start to go meshugana. I think they did a whole research study where they took away people's phones and they attached them to different wavelengths or something, and they put them in a room by themselves. And they tell them to like ring the buzzer as soon as they need somebody. And after like 30 seconds, every single person rang the buzzer because they were just going nuts. So they were sitting there. There was nothing to do. They couldn't sit there and think for a second. They couldn't be by themselves. That's the type of life that we're always so busy. But at the end of the day, Yitzchak's life was, if we want to say, it wasn't as exciting, it wasn't as busy, it wasn't as scary as Yaakov's life, his son, and it wasn't as exciting and busy and fresh as his father's life, Avraham. He didn't wage any wars like Avraham did. He didn't travel throughout the world. He didn't try to preach so that people should become Jewish and try to preach God to the entire world. He was never a celebrity, which everybody knew, like Avram Avinu, right? In this week's Parsha, B'nai Ched, everybody knew who Avram was. He was like number one on Facebook. But Avram was a founder of a new religion. Yaakov is a progenitor of the 12 Shvatim. And Yitzchak somewhere in between. He's not as fancy as either one of them. And it's very fascinating. His life is, again, it's pretty relatively boring. He doesn't have the drama of his son Yaakov. He doesn't have to flee from Yishmael. Yitzchak doesn't have to flee from Yishmael he doesn't have to flee Yishmael's wrath like Yaakov has to flee Esav. He doesn't have to fight like Yaakov in the middle of the night. He doesn't have to fall in love with Rachel and then have to experience all the deceit. He doesn't have to lose, like Yaakov did, his son. He doesn't have to lose his son Yosef for 20 years or 22 years only to realize that he became the prime minister of Egypt. He doesn't have to relocate his whole family like Avram does to Eretz Canaan and like Yaakov does at his old age to Egypt. Yitzchak, we know, lives in one location. He never leaves Eretz Yisrael. And he had a much simpler life, right? That's how, again, it's interesting because we always say Yaakov is Ish Tam Yoshev Olim. But if you think about it for a second, Yitzchak seems to have the simpler life. Now, again, we can't downplay the fact that he went through the traumatic experience of Akedas Yitzchak. But all things being equal throughout his entire life compared to Avraham and compared to Yaakov, Yitzchak's life was relatively simple. And the only thing the Torah tells us about his job and what he did was in Grar. When we look at source number 13, and I'll share the screen again with you. When we look at source number 13, what does it tell us? Vayizra Yitzchak ba'aretz hahi vayimsa b'shnahi mea sha'arim. That's where mea sha'arim is called from. He had 100-fold of what he had gone and what he had planted. Vayigdala ish vayilo miknet son and miknet bakar. He had some cattle. Vayikanu b'plishtim. The plishtim got jealous. The chol ha'beirot asher chafru avdei aviv b'mei Avram aviv. We know that Avram had dug wells, sitmum plishtim, and the plishtim had closed them up. Vayomar Melech Yitzchak leave us. Vayelach Sham Yitzchak Vayashav Yitzchak Vayachbres Beros Hamayim Asher Chafru Bnei Avram. He goes ahead and he redigs the wells that his father Avram had dug. Vayisadmum Plishtim, that the plishtim had closed up. Acharemos Avram, and he called them the Shemot. So Yitzchak, we would say, represents the long and monotonous and tedious afternoon of Jewish history. And that's what he says over here. And I want to read to you what Rabbi Wari Jacobs says. Therein lies his singular uniqueness. Yitzchak's life might lack the grandeur, the excitement, the challenge, the mystique of Avraham and Yaakov, yet he embodies the essence and foundation of Judaism, the daily, consistent, and unwavering commitment to God and his work. What he's saying is that there's something to be said of the fact that you're serving God when things are just boring, when things are just the same as they were yesterday and the same as they will be tomorrow. Avram was a revolutionary. He cast a new light on the world, but it was Yitzchak who created the vessels to contain and internalize the light. Yitzchak dug the wells of Judaism. He went deeply into himself and the world around him and revealed the subterranean living well springs of faith and commitment, ensuring that the flow never ceases. Yitzchak's relative silence in Bereshis ought not to be confused with being passive. It was a silence that comes with internalization. Yitzchak knew that revolutions can last for a few decades. That's the excitement of Avram Avinu. But if you do not create solid containers of energy, and for the energy, represented by the wells in the ground, the energy will fade away. And Yitzchak, like we said, at one point in his life, obviously he was on a Mizbeach, ready to be an offering for Hashem, but that really symbolized his entire life, which was an absolute dedication and resilience to Hashem, which was consistent, unwavering, and unbending. And we can say that that's why Yitzchak was the founder of Mincha, the afternoon prayer. That's why it says in this week's Parsha, that's why it says, as we know, I'm just going to show it to you inside, Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh lifnos arev, vayisai na vayar v'neg malim ba'im. That is exactly why he went out to meditate, quote unquote. You asked me what they said. It said seemingly they were meditating in the field, because Yitzchak was able to tap into this spiritual energy of the afternoon that's boring. He's showing that a relationship with Hashem doesn't only exist in the morning when everything's exciting, like Abraham. It doesn't only exist at night when things are scary, right? We know that we thank God. It's interesting if you think about it. We thank God. We're chayiv to thank God. Al hara v'al tova. You can realize that it's a lot easier to get close to Hashem, hopefully from Abraham, hopefully from the excitement and not from the negative. But you get close to Hashem really in one of two ways. When everything's going great, sometimes it's easy to forget Hashem there as well. And when everything's going terrible. When things are in the morning and excitement and greatness, thank you, Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Everybody's quick to say Baruch Hashem when things are great. People are not so quick to say Baruch Hashem when things are not great. But when you're punished and when things are not going so well, you're reminded, at least in the back of your mind, that Hashem exists. That's Avraham. That's Yaakov. But when you're dealing with Yitzchak, Yitzchak is talking about the energy and the connection to Hashem and the relationship with Hashem that doesn't just exist when everything's great, when there's excitement, when there's energy. It doesn't just exist when things are not so great and you have to pour your heart out to Hashem with Tehillim and ask him, please, Hashem, help me, with drama and with the romance of night. It's saying that relationship with Hashem, Yitzchak represents, a relationship with Hashem is even more profound when it's the daily commitment and daily sacrifice, when things are, quote unquote, just boring, and the ability to bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, into the dull and tedious journey of life. Yitzchak represents sitting in your office back in the day before COVID, sitting in your office in the afternoon, and those that are back. And now you have 1 billion emails to respond to. You have to go to the bank. You have to return 13 phone calls. You still have a few annoying appointments that you don't even want to have. But you stand up and you stop and you daven mincha and you connect to Hashem. You're busy, you're stressed, you're tired, but you leave everything behind and you take time out to break the routine, of life, and to focus on the one and eternal truth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's where the power of Yitzchak is. That's the power of Yitzchak. And that we actually see over here in source number 15 and 16, our last two sources for tonight. The Gemara tells us in Brachos, right? Some of us are not so careful, especially this time of year. We're not so careful with mincha because it's like impossible. You have like 3 hours to daven mincha from 12:33 until like 4:45. Specifically with mincha, you need to be careful. Because Eliyahu was only answered at mincha, and says the Seder Hayom in the last source, Otam lanias tfilas mincha minei sheisha shekol haolam oskin b'malachtam. We're all kolecha tarud b'inyana v'chavatzav. We're all busy. Umi shehiniach kol chavatzav ufulosav. If you leave everything you're doing, v'rodech acharei chefsei shamayim, and you go and you say this is all important, but not as important as a relationship with God. Umispalel umischanein lifnei Adon Haolam, and you pray and you supplicate before Hashem, umakir ad nuso ugedulaso, and you recognize Hashem's greatness. V'hu ke'eved hanirtzalo lavod avodaso. You want to serve God and put everything else away. Roy lahabid el ani halazeh hacharad el devar Hashem. That is what Yitzchak is all about. So we see Avraham is serving God with excitement when everything is great. Yaakov is serving God, like Erwin was saying, when things are not so great, but you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with darkness and with mystery. And Yitzchak is serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the monotony, regular, daily life when you put everything on hold and you just serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu when everything seems to be simple. How does this connect to our marriage? And with this, we'll conclude. Marriage has 3 components. And there are people on the call that could probably talk about this a lot better than I can. I got married in 2007, so I've only been married for 13 years. And my wife will tell you that I still need a lot of practice, but this is the understanding that he has. Marriage has 3 components: the morning, the night, and the afternoon. When you meet your spouse for the first time, especially before you even get married. So what is it? There's a lot of excitement. There's newness, the freshness. We could even say Shana Rishona. We're excited, we're inspired, we're full of hope. We dream about what the future is going to look like. What's that? That's the Avraham of marriage. That's the Shacharis of marriage. That's the beginning of the relationship. Now, we also know that marriage also has its special moments of night, of mystery, of drama. I would add, he doesn't say this, but I would add times when you struggle together. That's what? That's the passion, the electricity that comes from the unknown. When you unfold the untold layers of depth in your soul's, in your spouse's soul, that's what's dealing with darkness and uncertainty. That's the Yaakov element of marriage. That's the Marav element. So the Shacharis element is the freshness, the newest when you're first married. The Yaakov element is when you struggle together. The Yaakov element is when there's mystery, when there's drama. That's the Yaakov element. So it's obvious then what exactly is the Yitzchak element. That's the mincha of marriage. The Yitzchak element is the mincha of marriage. It's the simple, unromantic commitment of 2 people during the boring days of life. It's when there's nothing exciting going on. It's when the kids are out of the house. It's when things are just me and you. It's 2 people and 2 souls that are going together through life in difficult times, in good life, in monotonous times, and in thrilling moments. And it's the loyalty and the trust that's built over the years of being there for each other, not because your kids are here and not because there's an exciting thing and not because we're traveling here, but it's the loyalty and trust that's built day after day, year after year of being there to support the other during the regular times of life. And this type of love is a unique love because it's not a love that's built out of thrill, out of a drama. It's not the love that precedes marriage of Abraham, the excitement which is there in the beginning of marriage, maybe Shana Rishona, and you're swept off your feet. It's the love that's literally from the daily commitment, day after day, week after week, year after year. It's a love that you can't have before you're married, and you can't even have in the beginning of marriage. It's a love that only comes as you get to grow deeper and deeper and closer to the person. And that's why, going back to what we said before, and we're going to end with this idea, That's why, if you remember what we said over here, what did we say in the very beginning? We said that only after did she become his spouse. And it might not have been the first day, and might not have been the first year, right? We always say that's society. You have to love the person that you marry them. I'm not saying you shouldn't like the person. But the point is that we always tell our children that true love, well, I'm not telling my children yet, but true love comes after marriage. True love doesn't come before marriage. And he says to conclude, and I want to read the beautiful words. What is the difference between all of these loves? In the Avram and Yaakov love, born out of the ecstasy of a new passionate relationship, or the mystery and drama of the unknown, the shorter we are married, the more excitement, the more mystery the love. The longer we are married, the more difficult to love. There's less excitement, less mystery. As the thrill wanes, boredom sets in, and we sometimes grow disinterested. But in the Yitzchak type love, it is the reverse. It's not that you're basing it on the excitement. It's not that you're basing it on the unknown. It's not that you're basing it on the thrill, because over time, the longer you get married, the excitement goes away, the thrill goes away, the mystery goes away. That's not going to last you too long. But it's the Yitzchak type of love, where the longer you're married, the reverse is true. The deeper you grow in love. You don't fall in love, as he says, you climb in love. And the love becomes like the well that Yitzchak went ahead and dug. It's like the well that's in the depths of the earth, and its life-sustaining water never cease to flow. And he says that the first love that's described in the Torah that we're saying, the first love of Yitzchak and Rivka, is to teach us one of the most important principles of marriage, that passion and romance are great, but they fade because circumstances change. A marriage must be built on good judgment, sound reason, appreciation of the inner enduring qualities and values of the other person, and it must possess the enduring commitment of a couple to each other day in and day out in a bond of steadfast and simple faithfulness and trust. And interestingly, we can suggest that's why Jewish law insists that there's no physical relations before marriage. What's the big deal? Why can't you have physical relationship before you get married? Seemingly because that shows and that prevents a Jewish couple from getting married for physical attraction alone. We know this from Hollywood, unfortunately, but we know that physical attraction and physical beings change. And if you're just getting married for the physical relations and for the physical aspects, then the marriage is unfortunately many times doomed for failure. Because if you have an appreciation of the character traits, of the personality, of the values of the other person, those things will not change. And when women or men get physically involved, so then they're able to unfortunately be blinded by the crucial information which may come to surface a few years down the line. So unfortunately for many of us in society, and Baruch Hashem, not Jews as much, but many in society, they know how to daven shacharis to deal with the freshness. They know how to maybe daven mariv, the mystery, the mysterious aspect of life and the drama of life, but it's very hard to daven mincha. We should all be zocheh to have marriages, and not only marriages, and loves of our spouses, but also of our friends and of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should have the zocheh to have the marriages and the love of our spouses and of Hashem and of other people, the love of Yitzchak Avinu, the love that's not based on spontaneity, the love that's not solely based on excitement, the love that's not solely based on drama or mystery, the love that's based on a daily commitment, day in and day out, to connect to our spouses, to connect to our friends, to connect to Hashem during the normal, boring, average day of our lives. And if we're able to do that, then our relationships with each other, our relationships with our spouses, our relationships with Hashem will go to the highest of all heights. It'll go to the heights of Yitzchak Avinu. So this is just a little bit of a taste of the types of things we're going to do on Thursday nights. Chassidus on the Parsha, different ideas. And again, I hope that you can join me again next Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you so much for joining.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Can I just, it's ironic though that from all the others, Yitzchak's marriage seemed to be the most strained.
Right, interesting. I'm just going to end the thing now. I'm just going to end the. I'm going to end the thing because it's being recorded. But we could talk offline. Okay.
All right.
We'll see you soon. Have a good night, everyone.